Delighted that you are here, and I will give the floor to you to talk about Rotary International Foundation. But welcome, welcome, welcome. Great to have you. So you can either hold it or put it in there, whatever you want.
First of all, I got to apologize. I put 1050 Palm Avenue in my GPS, and it took me to a different place. So should have put it. Anyway, it's a pleasure to be here. I bring greetings from our district governor, Derek Potlitz, and from our international president, Stephanie Ercik. I just came back from Istanbul, Turkey for the Rotary International Peace Conference they had there. It was a fantastic program and very illuminating to see some of the new peace scholars that are studying in Istanbul. Met a young lady from Yemen, a young gentleman from Jordan, a young gentleman from Egypt, and a young gentleman from Israel. The four of them working together for peace when normally they would be at war with each other. So it was really a great experience. I want to recognize and thank your club. You all became a 100% Paul Harris Fellow Club in 2012, 2013. That meant every member of your club at that time was a Paul Harris Fellow. Once you achieve that, you keep that recognition forever. So thank you all for that. I want to let you know your club has donated just under $600,000 to our Rotary Foundation since your inception. So give yourselves a round of applause. It's really great. I'm here today to just kind of give a little bit of an overview about the Rotary Foundation. And as I go around to clubs, I find a lot of Rotarians contribute to the Rotary Foundation. Some clubs will charge $25 a quarter, $50 semi-annually, so that everybody's a 100% sustaining club. But as I go around, I find most Rotarians really don't know anything about the Rotary Foundation other than they donate some money to it. In looking, I see that it looks like a lot of your members are Paul Harris Fellows. You've got 23 Paul Harris Fellows, 3 benefactors, 1 Bequest Society member, 3 major donors. But it doesn't appear that a lot of people have given money recently. So every Rotarian every year is something that the Rotary Foundation really tries to promote. Anybody know when our Rotary Foundation actually first started?
47.
Close, 1917. Arch Klump, the 6th president of Rotary International, started our Rotary Foundation in Atlanta, Georgia in 1917 with $26.50. That was money left over from the previous year's convention that started our Rotary Foundation. We've come a long way since then. Our Rotary Foundation's mission is to enable Rotarians to advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through the improvement of health, the support of education, and the alleviation of poverty. How many of y'all get the Rotarian magazine every month? Hopefully everybody does. Let me ask a tougher question. How many of you actually read the Rotarian magazine every month? Great, good to hear. Who can tell me what the motto of our Rotary Foundation is? That's the theme for Rotary International, but that's great. The Magical Rotary is our theme this year. What is the motto of the Rotary Foundation? Anybody know? Let me ask this. Does anybody know who the trustee chair of the Rotary Foundation is? Okay. On page 3 of the Rotarian magazine every month is an article from who? President of Rotary International, Stephanie Ercik. If you go towards the back of the magazine, our Rotary Foundation trustee chair puts a message in every month as well. And that's Mark Maloney, past RI president from Alabama, who's currently the trustee chair. The motto for the Rotary Foundation is doing good in the world. And that's exactly what our foundation does day in and day out with life-changing programs in third world and developing countries where we're not giving a hand out, but a hand up. Big difference. The Rotary Foundation is a separate 501c3 organization, separate and apart from Rotary International, but it's the backbone and lifeblood of Rotary International. It's what funds all the projects and programs that we undertake both locally and globally. Anybody have any idea how big a business the Rotary Foundation is? How much did we take in last year? Pretty close. $440 million was taken in last year. Anybody know what the goal of the Rotary Foundation is for this year? Little bit of a stretch. How much? Well, 500 million or $500 million. And we are well on the way to achieving that. Charity Navigator is an independent organization that rates all foundations worldwide. They give from 0 to 4 stars, 4 stars being the highest rating a foundation can receive. Less than 2% of all foundations get a 4-star rating. Our Rotary Foundation has received a 4-star rating for the past 16 consecutive years. In fact, in 2016 and 2017, our Rotary Foundation was recognized as the world's outstanding foundation by the Association of Fundraising Professionals, 2 consecutive years in a row. Why do I share this with you? I want you to know, as donors to our Rotary Foundation, 91 cents of every dollar you contribute goes directly to projects and programs. I would urge you, if you're like me, and I do donate to other organizations besides Rotary, go to Charity Navigator and take a look at how many stars they've got. You may be shocked to find out that organizations you're supporting, very little of the money you're giving is actually going where you think it's going. Now, I'm not here to bash anybody else's foundation. I'm here to really tell you how good our Rotary Foundation is and how we're reviewed and looked at as being one of the most respected foundations worldwide. There's 7 areas of focus that our Rotary Foundation looks at when they fund programs, and all the programs have to be sustainable. We used to do water wells in Central and South America. 6 months later, the well would it wouldn't work, and they didn't have replacement parts or training to do it. Well, now Rotary won't fund any district or global grant unless you can prove sustainability. So there's 7 areas of focus: basic education and literacy, maternal and child health, peace and conflict prevention and resolution, disease prevention and treatment, water, sanitation and hygiene, community and economic development, and supporting the environment. I would challenge your club or any one of the 37,000 Rotary clubs in over 200 countries and regions around the world to find a project or program that doesn't fit under at least one of those 7 areas of focus. So they're pretty broad-based, and they're designed really, again, to give not a hand out, but a hand up to third world and developing countries. Another thing is we ask Rotarians to donate and not give until it hurts, because that's not biblical. We want Rotarians to give until it feels good. If you write a check for $100 to the Rotary Foundation and you don't feel good about it, add a 0 or 2, whatever it takes for you to feel good about the donation that you're making. There's basically 3 ways to contribute to our Rotary Foundation. Annual giving. That's E-rate, every Rotarian every year, where we ask Rotarians to consider giving $100 a year. After 10 years, they've given how much? Where's my math majors? $1,000, and you become what? A Paul Harris Fellow. Is your job done once you become a Paul Harris Fellow? No, just like your church or synagogue is looking for money on a regular basis, so is the Rotary Foundation. So we also have what we call the Paul Harris Society. Instead of giving $100 a year, members of the Paul Harris Society give $1,000 a year. How much do they give after 10 years? $10,000, and they become what? A major donor. So again, unfortunately, a lot of Rotarians could do more for the Rotary Foundation, but nobody's ever asked them. The club says, well, donate $100 a year and participate in every Rotarian every year, and Rotarians will do that. But we have a lot of Rotarians who are able to do more if asked, and we certainly appreciate what they do. We also have polio, and I'm going to talk a little bit at the end about polio and where we are with that. That's our #1 global project and program. Our goal there is to raise $50 million a year. The key, though, is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation will match that 2 to 1. So Rotary puts in $50 million this year. Bill and Melinda Gates put in $100 million, so $150 million goes towards the fight against polio. And then lastly, the third way of giving to the Rotary Foundation is through our endowment. It used to be called the Permanent Fund, and that's anybody I'm sure you all heard of Harvard University, right? Anybody have any idea how much their endowment is worth? It's about 62 billion, not million, $62 billion. Yet they charge about $70,000 or $75,000 a year for tuition. I don't know how they get away with that with all that money, but suffice it to say, the Rotary Foundation started its endowment in the late 90s. Our goal this year in 2025 is to have $2.025 billion in our endowment. Right now, we have about 800 million in cash in the bank, and we have about 1.1 million in expectancies. Somebody tell me, what's an expectancy? Exactly. It's at the time of your demise, it's a legacy gift that you leave to the Rotary Foundation. It could be a codicil to your will, life insurance, IRA, property, a lot of different things. So it's probably the best kept secret in Rotary, our endowment. And we're really trying to put a big effort into asking Rotarians to do their estate planning and make sure they understand that through proper estate planning, you're not taking money away from your spouse or your children or your grandchildren. The money would actually come from what would go to the IRS. It's all legal. If you have a good attorney and a good financial planner, they can help you structure your gift so that you can leave a legacy gift to the Rotary Foundation without taking anything away from family. I'd like to just close a little bit and talk about polio, because that is our #1 project and program. Where are we today? Let's go back and take a look at the polio story. In 1985, there was over 350,000 cases of polio a year. That's almost 1,000 cases a day of children that were either permanently paralyzed or died from polio. Jonas Salk came up with this vaccine, 2 drops vaccine, that will prevent a child from paralysis and or death from polio. In the mid-'80s, Rotarians were looking at our centennial being 2005. What can we do to demonstrate to the world our commitment to world understanding and peace? And somebody said, well, this doctor just came up with this vaccine. Why don't we eradicate polio? Well, everybody in the room laughed, and then they said, no, I'm serious. I think we can do this. There's only been one disease in the history of mankind that's ever been eradicated. Anybody know what that was? Smallpox. So Rotary is on the verge for only the 2nd time in the history of mankind eradicating a disease. We made a promise to the children of the world that we would eradicate polio. I believe if Rotary knew back in the mid-'80s how difficult and how much it was going to cost, I don't know whether they would have actually undertaken it or not. But for the last 40 years, we've spent over $1 billion investing in saving over 20 million children from paralysis and or death because of those 2 drops. Where are we today? Where we had 125 countries with polio endemic back in 1985, we're down to just 2. What are they? Afghanistan and the other one neighboring Pakistan. A little war going on there. It's been difficult. They're very remote areas. Our last year's president, Gordon McInally, and this year's Rotary International president, Stephanie Urchik, have both visited the presidents of Afghanistan and Pakistan. They've talked to the generals of the army, and they've gotten assurances that their countries will work with us. They're basically Muslim countries. We had issues where some of the Muslim clerics were saying, don't take this vaccine. It's the evil West trying to sterilize our women so we can't procreate. And we literally had to bring imams in from other parts of the Muslim world to say, no, that's not true. They've vaccinated my children, my grandchildren. This is a good thing to do. And so the governments of both Afghanistan and Pakistan are on board. We've had a little bit of a setback this last year where we used to be able to go door to door, and you heard about purple pinkies. They would give a child 2 drops of vaccine and then put a purple dye on their pinky to show that they've been vaccinated. Now the governments want us to do the immunizations in the local mosque. And while that's all well and good, not all the families are bringing children to the mosque to get vaccinated. So where are we? In 2020, we had 140 cases worldwide of polio. The following year, 2021, we only had 6 cases. 2022, it went up to 30. In 23, we had 12 cases. Last year, we had 99 cases of polio. Now, a lot of people say, Charlie, wow, it sounds like we're going backwards. We got a problem here. Not really true. The problem is our detection is so much better now. And while we say we have two endemic countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan, it's not the whole country that's affected. It's really a remote area on the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, very mountainous, a lot of issues in trying to get to the children there. But now with the presidents and the generals of the government working with us, we're hoping we're going to be able to address that situation. So while we had 99 cases last year, so far this year, we have 7. You have to go 3 years with no reported cases to declare a disease eradicated. So we are committed to fulfilling our promise to the children of the world that we will do whatever it takes to continue immunizing children to prevent them from this paralyzing and fatal disease of polio. I could talk all day long about our Rotary Foundation, and I know some of you are probably afraid that I might. I'll leave you with this analogy. Have you heard the analogy between a past district governor and an old pair of tennis shoes? The analogy is everything wears out except the tongue. So in the interest of time, I will again apologize for being a little late getting here. I will stay afterwards if anybody's got any questions. Not sure, is your foundation chair here for the club? Who's foundation chair this year? Oh, well, I'll give this to David or whatever to pass on. It's a listing of all your club members and where they're at. I also want to let you know that we have a great deal going. If somebody wants to become a Paul Harris Fellow, our district will match between $200 and $500 to get you there. So let's say you've given $200 so far to the Rotary Foundation. How much do you need to become a Paul Harris Fellow? $800. You write a check for $400 and our district will match your $400 and we'll make you a Paul Harris Fellow. So if anyone's interested in that, see me afterwards and I'll work with you on that. Anybody have any questions about the Rotary Foundation? Yes.
Our club matches dollar for dollar up to 500. How do we work that out with the district?
We'll do the same. I guess we'll work hand in hand with you. So say somebody's only given $100, they need $900. If you give them $450, we'll give them $450 and we'll make them a Paul Harris Fellow.
No, really?
Really? Yeah. Now I'll go you one better. Not only will we match between $200 and $500 to become a Paul Harris Fellow, we'll match between $100 and $1,000 for a contribution to polio that will then be doubled 2 to 1 by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So again, we're trying to do everything we can as a district to eradicate polio through contributions of Rotarians. I know a lot of Rotarians have never really donated anything to polio because nobody's ever really asked them. We have a Polio Plus Society in our district where we're asking Rotarians to consider giving $100 a year until polio is eradicated. We're looking at maybe 3 or 4 years before that happens, so it's not a large amount of money, but certainly I would love to see a lot of your members step up and say, we'll donate $100 to eradicate polio. The district will match that $100, so it's $200, and then the Bill and Melinda Gates will double it, so your $100 becomes a $400 contribution. Any other questions I could field? Again, I appreciate the opportunity of coming and talking about our foundation. I want to thank the club for their almost $600,000 worth of funding for the Rotary Foundation and encourage you all to consider doing what you can. Don't give until it hurts, give until it feels good. And let's see if we can have every Rotarian every year continue to support our Rotary Foundation. President David, I think unless there's other questions, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you. I actually do. I've got a math question. I'm delighted to hear the district's generosity in terms of Paul Harris Fellows. So let me check out the math with you, particularly in reference to what Ken just said. So we know that to receive a Paul Harris Fellow designation is $1,000 contributed. Whether you can write a check immediately or whether it takes you time to build up that. So, but make sure I got the math right. At least in our club, if someone were to give themselves $250 to Rotary International, then our club would match that $250, making a $500 contribution. And then the district would match that 5?
So we'll match 250.
Then it match the 250. Okay, fair enough. Okay, well, good.
You don't want to double dip.
Well, I always want to check for that double dip,
We'll
but
happily match any monies up between 200 and 500.
that the individual gives. Excellent, excellent. Well, that's great to know. Yeah, that's great to know. So if I do the math, then that would be then 333 in essence.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So for $335, you can become a Paul Harris Fellow. Yeah, that's great to know.
Or get to the next level.
Yeah, or get to the next level. That's right. That's right. Excellent. Bob, you have a question?
We still give it to that every year.
I didn't hear the last part.
The permanent fund to the annual permit. We still give a percentage of that money every year to the annual fund program.
Okay, the question was for the endowment, only the interest is utilized, never the principal. And that interest is utilized for various different programs, polio, for global grants, district grants, things like that. So yes, the interest is generated off that. And if you think about it, if we reach $2 billion, that's going to generate at least $100 million a year just in interest. So that's a lot of projects and programs that will be able to, in perpetuity, be done under Rotary's name.
That's great. Yeah. Well, thank you. Great question.
And I'll say afterwards.
Okay, good. Charlie will be around after our meeting today if anybody has additional questions. I do want to take this opportunity to recognize the folks, at least in this Rotary year, that have become or become again Paul Harris Fellows. And that, of course, is Joan Gutierrez. And Joan, thank you for your generosity to Rotary International. And I believe, David Bramley, you as well have become a Paul Harris Fellow. So congratulations to you. Is there anybody else that we're missing? To the two of you. That's what I thought I remembered, unless somebody else remembers since July that we've had a Paul Harris. But again, many thanks to Joan and David, both of you, for your generosity and the club's generosity as well.